republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. This time I would approve, or I would invite, move and second to approve the published agenda of this date's meeting as presented.
Make that motion.
All in favor, let us know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, now time for announcements. Mr. Osborne.
You will go over to your first tab and just very quickly, just to remind you that, of course, your first regular voting meeting comes up Monday night, the 7th. With us meeting this afternoon, I'm going to request that when this meeting is over, if you leave your workbooks with us, because the only thing we're going to be doing is adding a minimal amount to them based on some discussion and what takes place today, and they will be ready by 2 o'clock tomorrow for you to pick up. Of course, when you meet on Monday night, the mayor will be announcing his committees. You will be elected Mayor Pro Tem for 2019. Just to remind you that we do have a meeting coming up in mid-February. Be sure you put on your calendar on the development code and everything. On Monday night, we will have a report made to you by Villa Rica City Council member Leslie McPherson concerning some things on animal control. You can, I quote from the email that she sent to us. And then finally, we will have on the agenda the appointment of Charlene Thomas to be the Temple representative on the Regional Library Board. That was a recommendation that came to the mayor from the Regional Library Board. She's agreed to serve. I think all of you know her. The question was whether or not you want to interview her or you know her well enough and you know about her well enough that you're ready to vote on her. Just need to know what you want us to do. Okay, so we'll have that up, and that concludes the announcements for your meeting today.
Thank you, sir. Next comes Recreation Committee, chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Richard Wagner.
Okay. I'd like to start first because we've kind of been skipping over Sandra to see if she has anything with the senior center. And I want you to start doing that, Mr. Osborne, beginning with the rec, please. Anything?
Other than we had a great Christmas, and I want to thank you and Howard and Mayor for assisting us with that and for the donation. It was a great rafting success. Thank you.
All right. And with that, then the next is the staff report concerning the Constance City of Temple's request for sealed bid for 2019 field and maintenance services city park. A company to be selected during January the 7th regular meeting. Joe, here, right? Joe, you want to?
I've got that.
You got it, okay.
But Joe, come on up, because you and I both got some things to cover with these two items. Bottom line is that we did advertise for sealed bids for the building maintenance services. We got only one, which was not surprising considering that's what it had been the previous couple of years. It was from River Bottom Farm, Bill Reinhardt. The lump sum, you will see what's there. I have attached a copy of what we sent out asking for, what we publicized asking for sealed bids. Fairly detailed. I'm not going to go over it at this time, but we were very specific in what we were asking for and when we wanted it. Mr. Reinhardt, as you can see on the last page of the request for sealed bids, that's what he gave us back, was what he filled out. And it's slightly above what his contract was for this year for the services that we're talking about. And we all know that over the years he's done a lot more work because we have not added that additional person that you had approved for the recreation department. We hope to do that. Mr. Reinhardt knows that, and my assumption at this point is we get that other fund, which you budgeted money for salary and fringes, and so his contract that we would be looking for you to take action on Monday night would be for $13,754 for what's specified in the request for bids. Ms. Wilson, you got anything you can add to that? So, Joe and I are available for questions, if anybody may have.
All right. Keep that in mind. And that will be for us to vote on tonight.
On Monday night.
All right. Then staff report concerning the response to City of Temple's request for sealed bids for the purchase and installation of fences at various ball fields in City Park, with a contractor to be selected during the January 7th regular meeting. Joe?
Let me interrupt just a minute. If you would go over to your next tab in your workbook, it says new fencing for ball fields in City Park. And then if you would put what I'm about to pass out to you on top of that, so that this will be the top of that particular item. And also, if you would pass one down to Mr. Wilson, and one to Mr. Evans. Joe will make whatever comments he wants to make to you, and then I'll pick up with a few others before we open it for discussion.
Well, there was only one response to that. They got their bid in yesterday, so put the print out, they have the print.
Yeah, what I've given you, and let me just cover this, that, as Joe said, we had only one response, and I just got through preparing this about time noon, that Joe and I talked very briefly about it. What I've given you is the one response we got is from Acosta Fence located in Carrollton. And if you look at the bid specs we've given you, we had 6 bills that we were asking for information on. As it turns out, bill number 8 was not included in the response we got from Acosta, but that's a very tiny part of this overall project. They may have overlooked it because it was on a separate sheet on the bid request form that we sent out. But what they did give us, bottom line, if you look at the new information from Acosta, fencing work basically is a little less than $40,000, $39,365. And then if you go to the second page of that bid document, you will see that they talk about walk gates and double gates, and they give you some costs there, and I went through that this morning. Joe and I talked briefly about this late this morning. It appears to me, based on what we put in our bid specs and what they are talking about charging for different kind of gates, height of the and so forth, is that we're talking about $8,600 for the walk gates. And then if you, on the second page of our memo to you, you're talking about the double drive gates. It looks like that would be about $4,000. So the cost of the gates is going to be about $12,600. That would move your total bid cost up to just right under $52,000, maybe $51,965. Now, finally, if you look on the second page of Acosta Fence's sealed bid that they gave us, there's a heading called Materials and Installation. And you will see they've got some numbers and identification there. And frankly, that is, I didn't have time to figure out what else might be involved that would let us come up with an actual amount for you. We'll have that for you. It included in your book that we give you tomorrow, so that you'll have the final numbers, but it's gonna be about $52,000 plus whatever would be involved in materials and installation, as well as a very small project on Field 8. So on Monday night, what you're gonna need to decide is whether to select a cost defense to do this project with a specific dollar figure that you'll know at the meeting. Or you can reject this bid and we can rebid it. I can't tell you if we rebid it, if you're gonna get better bids. I mean, I can't tell you get any bids from anybody else. We had it out there, we advertised it in the newspaper, we had it out. It was the bad season of the year. On the other hand, if you look at what I put in the bid document, if you're gonna get the fencing work done before spring sport starts, we gotta get on with it. And as you look at the bid documents, you will see that we talked about when the work would be starting and when it needed to be finished, based on the fact that we're looking at you awarding this on the 7th of January. Like I say, if we go back on Monday night and you reject the bids and we rebid it, you can add another month minimum to the schedule that we've got here. So, having made that report to you, those comments, Joe and I are open for any questions that you may have.
Didn't you send out letters to them also? Submit something?
We sent letters to 3 companies that Joe can tell you about. One of those was Acosta. No, one of those.
Yes.
One of those. And to the local company, L&L Fencing. And of course, it was on our website. We ran the ad in the newspaper. So we've got his.
But the way he did this bid, we don't have a total.
I can't give you a total at this time, no, sir.
Well, my concern is we got nothing to compare to.
Correct. The only thing that we would, and we would have to compare to is Joe can tell you what his thoughts were, because I know when we first looked at this, not knowing exactly on the numbers, I said, you know, does that look good to you as compared to what you thought they might be? I'll let Joe respond to what he told me.
I mean, yeah, the numbers for each field that he gave was not a bad price. But I do agree that we need to have another, at least somebody else, you know,
Compared to.
compare it to.
Was there any response from the local guy?
No, I mean, we sent him a letter. We sent a letter to the others, I think, provided y'all with copies of those letters that we sent out. We didn't get anything other than from Acosta. They hand delivered their bid yesterday morning.
Well, what could we even do differently to get a better response?
I don't know if we could. I mean, we did the normal thing, and what you would feel is logical is on our website. We had it in the paper. We've made contact with the companies we've dealt with in the past.
But based on other work, this appears to be pretty reasonable.
Well, based on, you know, single, we had companies come out and do, you know, give us quotes for one field or.
Yeah, or all the way around the new. What company did that?
Stevens Fence came out and did one, and then the one in Winston, I forgot, the one who actually did the
And
fence.
neither one of them wanted to give us a bid?
Well, I spoke with the guy from the Winston company who did the fencing up there, and I asked him did he receive the letter and everything. He said he did receive it, and they said they were gonna put it. I had a phone call yesterday, and the guy said he thought the deadline was the 2nd.
Well, the bid document says the deadline was 4 p.m. January 2nd when the bids were due open. Said that y'all would make a decision on who would receive the bid on the meeting of the 7th. So he read that, and he may well have focused on the 7th. But that's, can't make it any clearer than to say Your deadline for receiving bids is your deadline for receiving bids.
We're already gonna have a call meeting with the government, I think scheduled for this month. Is there any way to extend it or solicit a couple of bids?
I don't think you can, I think legally you ask to seal bids.
Oh, they were
You,
sealed, so-
you will have to reject this and start all over.
Okay.
But this is not really a complete bid, right? Because we're still trying to figure out how much it's gonna cost them for the total, so this is truly not a sale bid. This is
Well-
only a partial bid.
It's not inclusive.
I would
Exactly.
say that in terms of giving you a total number, I cannot, tell you this afternoon what, is included in what they call, materials and installation. So I can't, give you that information because I don't know what it is. I would say that we know that we're talking about right at 52,000.
But plus the other.
Well, you'll know what that is when you pick up your book tomorrow. We operated, like I say, this morning, just trying to get ready for your meeting this afternoon. But so the only thing I
So,
can be sure is
if
it's only bid.
if we reject this one, then the whole process will
Start
start
over.
You have to advertise and everything.
Start over.
But we need to see the total cost before we know whether to reject.
Yeah, and you'll know that before Monday night. So you can't make a decision before Monday night anyway, and then you can make a decision based on what you have.
All right. Sounds good. Anything else, Joe? And appreciate it. Anybody have any questions? Okay, that concludes then the rec department.
All right, sir, moving to Personnel Committee, also chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Richard Brown.
All right. Status, Public New Works Director for the City of Temple, the operation of the City's Public Works Department. New director begins.
You'll go with your next tab of giving you a memo that, and Dwayne will be making a report to you later in this meeting. We are recruiting. We have posted this on our website, on the bulletin board. The ad ran in the Times Georgian. We've given you a copy of that. It is on a couple of state recruiting list, the information, job description and so forth. So, and the deadline that we've got for candidates to submit applications is 4 p.m. on Tuesday, January 15th. We wanted to extend that deadline long enough so that people get through the holidays and things get back a little more normal, so that we be sure to get as many qualified applicants as possible. So that's where we are in the recruiting process. If there are questions, we'd be glad to try to respond.
All right, any questions?
That part is in the interim. Of course, we have 3 full-time people that are out in the field, and we expect them to continue with their work assignments. That we still, we've got a 4th slot, and our feeling had been looking at maybe promoting from within after we went fully staffed. Didn't feel like we needed to move forward with that at this time. That'll be something for you to look at later as to what you want to do with that other slot. In the interim, we talked with the mayor and had asked George Scala to kind of help a little bit with coordination. He's not the acting director. His job is to coordinate and assist primarily. And of course, this past week, earlier this week, when Mr. Everhart was on vacation, we had a couple of situations that we worked through, and I think everybody has a good understanding there of the interim activities, George with what he will be doing, and the three fellows in the field, what they will be doing. So that's kind of where we are now. At some point during the meeting, we'll talk about the situation on Greenwood Road, but we'd like to wait to do that, and Dwayne is up here
Okay.
at the table.
That makes sense.
But that's, from a personnel standpoint, that's where we are at the moment.
All right, sounds good.
So who's going to be the go-to person in public works? Is there one, or they just kind of working?
Well, they basically have assignments that they will be, which is what they generally do anyway, and they do help each other out for the most part. And they would do that from a coordination standpoint, what might be needed from that. George would be serving in that capacity to the extent that that's needed.
So I guess to follow up on what Howard's asking, George is gonna have the phone, if the emergency calls, emergency number will ring.
Well, we need to, and we need to make do some clarification to everything from that standpoint, because the message that we've got on there now would indicate that we've got somebody standing by at all times to take an emergency call, and that's really,
I thought we did.
well, I mean, it basically rings Dwayne's phone number, and he can tell you how he handles that, but it's certainly wasn't intended that he would be having a phone by his ear all the time.
But it was intended that if we had a pipe leak or something go wrong, that he could dispatch somebody out here as to what he thinks should be done.
And I'll let Dwayne respond to that, but the bottom line is that does occur. We have people that have been called out on the weekend and at night and everything.
So when he's up, it's probably a good time to ask this kind of question. Okay? Any other questions? All right. The next is the preliminary report discussion of the new personnel manual.
Before you go to that, the code enforcement, last item.
Oh, I thought you did that. Oh, my bad. Staff report concerning possible additional duties and increased work schedule for the city code enforcement officer. Oh, okay, my bad.
And really not to get into a lot of detail this afternoon, but George basically, when he came, we had worked on with Ricky Watts, and as you know, that during the time George has been here, we've expanded the work that he has done in code enforcement. But we haven't looked at any change of hours or anything else from that standpoint. And we do have some other things that he's gotten involved in that we didn't have anybody dealing with. And so we do need to address, not this afternoon, but over the next few weeks, next month or so, with myself and Mr. Bracknell later, so we can get back with council as to any changes that we may want to make in that job description or anything in terms of hours or anything else. There have been times when I've used George on some special assignments that I simply didn't have time to do. So I think all of you are well aware we have a small staff here, and so sometimes we need to do that. But from a code enforcement standpoint, I think we're doing now more according to code enforcement as we had in the past. And we just need to be sure that we're able to handle it properly.
So then my question would be, in looking at that, knowing he's been here, knowing that things are getting where we need a little more, and if it starts growing, we will need more, do we need to start doing budget? Do we need to look at the budget and let's make him his own little separate code enforcement? And let's put some, budget in there so that we have something to look at as far as cost and stuff goes?
Probably so, yes. Now, of course, we've got money in the budget, obviously, for his operation. But insofar as whether or not we need to break that out and to have it set up so it's more clearly defined, yes, ma'am, we probably do.
Okay, anything else?
Question.
Yes.
Got here, he may want to work up 35 hours per week. Wouldn't that constitute a full-time position over 32 hours or over 30
We'd have to look at that and see, I mean, and one of the things that we've got is kind of like with George as it is with me, is that because of the retirement that he's gotten through the federal government, it's not, even if we made him a full-time employee, which I'm not talking about good, but if we made a full-time employee, we still would not have costs, just like with me, in terms of there's no insurance cost for me, because I don't need insurance here, because I'm vested as a retiree of the city of Douglasville. He's got the same thing with the feds. But I don't, unless George has changed his mind this morning, he's not looking for a 40-hour-a-week job.
But there would still be a vacation package, though.
Probably would do that proportionate, yes, sir. That would make sense.
Okay. No other questions on that? Then, place here, all right, this is preliminary report discussion on new personnel manual, the city of Temple. For the ease of this, I hope everybody's had a chance to review, because what was given to us to look at or to review looked like this, which was taking what we were doing. Remember, we're merging the city of Temple, city of Rockmart. If you would go ahead to personal and confidential, there's, I'm not pulling a confidential document out, but there are places in here where there are some questions that I want to make sure that we're on the right page. One of the questions is whether or not to keep the quorum at 3.
I
And
thought that was with the change of the charter, though, not changing the personnel plan.
well, that's, okay, may have been. My bad. Let me make sure.
I think that was for recommendations if we were gonna look at doing some charter review.
Hold on a minute. You think you're exactly right.
Because it's two
Yes,
separate
yes,
things in
yes.
there.
I'm in the wrong page. Hold on a minute. I know what you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now there was one thing in here. It was in the personnel policies number 9. Okay, and that was the first one where it said, after the personnel policy adopted, it was to determine the officers and the directors are under the city manager and require confirmation of their job through the city council. Now, it's our understanding that what that meant was those department heads, chief financial director, the city clerk, city attorney would be the ones that would require city approval. That was in the original, correct? Because the list we originally sent stated that department heads, city clerk, financial director, city attorney, city administrator, hiring and firing consent would stay with the city council. The recommendation to the city council will be made by the mayor and city administrator. Any problems with that?
Well, to do that, doesn't it constitute a charter change?
I was just saying, that's still, we're talking about our charter thing.
Yes, but all of this is going to basically happen at the same time.
So right now, the council ratifies any terminations or any hirings. So,
But if we decide to do that, if that change is made, then it makes a change in personnel. that make sense? You're looking like, okay.
No, I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, we can make a change in the personnel handbook, but it's not really legal until we do the charter. So I think, okay, I guess I'm a little confused, because I thought a lot of that, we were gonna do the charter and then come back and make sure the personnel matched it, because the personnel is so much easier to change than the charter.
Right.
Okay, so I guess that was my confusion. I'm
Right.
sorry.
Well, the deal is that a lot of this thing works if our answer is yes. And one of the things that in looking at this, and I'll work through that in just a second, because that's the second part of the memo. All right? So keep that in mind as we're doing that. We've got the work week in place, fire services gone, employee classifications, we've got that in place. The statement of nepotism. The nepotism policy, is there any problem with the nepotism policy as we have it now? Did you look at that in the old charter?
The old charter, if I recall.
I mean, the old handbook.
Yes,
The old
it
handbook.
just says that you cannot have somebody under your direct authorization, that's nepotism.
Right.
But my niece could work for Bill because she's not under my direct authorization. Is that not correct?
It's not now, because technically, because the council has the power to hire and fire, no employee anywhere could be, none of our relatives that meet that qualification could work anywhere in the city. If it changes to the proposal of just dealing with department heads, they could work anywhere except being, department head. And it's defined as mother, father, sister, brother, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, the step that's in that same.
It's like me.
Yes, it's immediate family, so a cousin 3 times removed, you wouldn't have to get birth certificates and compare,
Right.
because it spells out exactly the nepotism would apply to. If we were to adopt the policy that changes it so that only the department heads are under us, then any of our relatives could work anywhere, because they wouldn't be under direct supervision. But no relative of Mr. Osborne could, because he would have supervision. Is that clear that up? Okay. All right.
According to the proposed handbook, nobody can work for the city if they have a relative that's an elected official.
Right.
Well, and that wouldn't change, and that was probably a bad example, but, if you talk about Mr. Osborne couldn't, because he supervises everybody, but Dwayne could have a cousin that worked in the rec department, because Dwayne didn't have direct supervision.
But we couldn't.
But
we
none
couldn't
of
work.
ours.
We couldn't.
Okay, that's,
But it's defined as who that is. Bad example.
But it's not,
but-
it's not that way now,
Right.
so it would change.
All right, any problem with that? Okay, all right, the next one that was here is there any part of the hiring and selection process that should be altered as relates to temple practice? And that's where we want to stay active in the hiring and firing process of those that I just called out. Do I need to repeat those? Okay, all right. Then, the evaluation process looked fine. It matched up with what we were doing. The take-home policy, any problems with the take-home policy? Secretary of annual leave, taken until the employee's probationary period. Try to get those 3 months, 6 months, those things. When we get the final back, we may need to be specifically looking at what we're trying to catch those. Then annual leave could not be taken until after. Now, Howard, did you mark those places? You can't match the page numbers in here with the page numbers. You have to go back a little bit. I think what he was doing was looking on his computer. But this one, did you look at this as far as the holidays? We do not take Veterans Day, so the holidays would stay the same. Floating days was a point where we noticed that there should be a discussion. You want what I mean by floating days?
do they now have 2?
They have 2 now, in which they neither have to take vacation or sick days for. Those days would be, an example would be if somebody bought a house and they were going to need to close, that would be during business hours, and that, they could take that reduced of that nature.
It's a floating holiday
That's a floating holiday.
that we do for.
2 of those, right. And Howard and I had a lot of discussion about it, and we assumed that we needed to bring that back to the full without a recommendation. Maybe it should be cut to 1, maybe?
We didn't change their PTO, right, or their, vacation time. They start out with 2 weeks, is that correct? After the first year?
Yes.
Yeah, so 2 weeks after the first year, and then they go up to 5 and then to 10 or whatever it is.
So, because of that, do you think, Howard and I just had a little bit of a discussion of this, is working through this, but I seem to think that with the number we give them, we don't need that floating holiday. I mean, it's an incentive just to take 2 days off to city pay. There's no guidance other than you can have them for any reason. But if you got 2 weeks vacation, a lot of people build up to 2 weeks. But we got the time where we can build up to longer than that. It's advantageous the way all of this works. It's advantageous for someone to stay with the city because the benefits do improve, especially after 5-year service.
Okay, so answer me this. I guess I was confused on this too. I was gonna ask this question. I know we have a set policy of holidays that we pay for, and then we have what we call, quote, 2 floating holidays, which is 2 just freebie days.
Right.
Do those freebie days carry over?
No.
So those days, you have to use them in the year or
Use
lose
them or
them?
lose them.
And did we, when we did the budget, did we just put 16 hours for everybody else to have those
I have
floating
no
holidays
idea.
or
You're on
whatever?
that committee. I generally think that, from what I'm hearing, is that those floating holidays should not be there. Is that, I'm not asking you to vote, I gotta have a consensus though, of a recommendation. All right?
They're getting sick days that they
Right.
pretty much take it anytime.
Right.
Do we have a policy on sick days, by the way? That was a little unclear to me, that policy on sick days, like, let's say where I work, you have to be out 3 days before you can actually ask.
Yes,
for sick
all of
days.
that's now, all of that is now clear in
That's
there.
covered.
It's really clear now.
Okay, right, and that's part of what we're adopting here, right? That's what's really clear in there right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, here's the deal, ma'am and ma'am. I should have done this at the very beginning. This is not going to be recommended for it to be on the agenda for the 7th. The idea is to take the changes that we have all been looking at and been talking about, to send them back with these questions answered, so that then we get another document that's a comprehensive document of the way it would be submitted. And then give everybody a chance to look over that, and then at the January meeting, anybody who brings anything or sees any problem would bring it there, or they could really do it beforehand, and then have it ready to go for the February meeting. That's kind of the timeline. It's too quick to try to turn it around, because we're correcting documents, we're merging documents, and we want to make sure that we get what we want.
In my previous life, I worked for the public school system. And one of the things that existed with the sick leave there is that we had the option of using, if we had sick leave accumulated, if we had enough sick leave, we could use some of that for personal days with a limit of so many per year. Is that something maybe that we could apply for the case of the floating days, where such a situation arose that an employee needed a day to close a house mortgage or
Right.
whatever comes up? It would it would be applied against their sick leave number
Their vacations.
and instead of their vacation.
Yes.
Anybody got a problem with that? All
And
right.
then the question would be, how many days?
Right.
And where I came from, it was 3, and then for a while, they let you accumulate and you carry over up to 5, with 5 as your max. But, you know, if you want to leave it at 2, you can leave it at 2.
I got a question. If you don't use your sick days, do you get a check at the end of the year?
No,
Just
You
carry
just
over.
they carry
No,
over,
you
use,
accumulate it.
yeah, but they.
Accumulate it for how long?
That was my question.
Yeah, that, we'll get to that in just a second.
Okay.
If we can, we'll hold that, okay?
Okay.
Because that'll take us that'll, there is Howard, will you do me a favor, please, and look at the page number where it shows that about the accumulated sick days?
Which page number is it?
I don't know, that's what you, I thought you had that, Mark. All right. I think.
There is something on page 59.
59, I'm looking here too.
Howard, I gave you the hard part. I'm doing, oh yeah, okay, 57, wait a minute. 57, this is the annual leave. You look at number, page 57, it has the annual leave. You can build up, every 10 years, you have 144 hours. After a year, you have
That's how many you accumulate, but how many can you keep? Like, after 10 years, you can have up to 144 hours, but you get 144 hours, but
It'll
can
go
you
over down to
accumulate
50,
that?
did you go to 59? 59, page 59 shows you the cap.
So
The
there's
regular
caps.
employee caps at 480 hours, police cap at 720 hours. The reason that's different is because a regular employee has an 8-hour day,
And the
police
police
officer
don't.
has a 12-hour day,
And this is just on sick leave?
just on sick leave.
Okay.
So you see what the deal is that, and that too, it's not something, I mean, you can accumulate it, and
Is it
then,
payable upon resignation or retirement?
If you go over to page 61, explain
let's cover that.
years of service, 10 years, you can get paid for 160 hours.
So even if you have 400,
If you have more,
we have 480 hours that we're gonna let them keep, but we're only gonna pay them for 160 when they leave?
That, it is based on retirement. It's not based on leaving. The whole concept behind this, let me see if I can sort it out. The whole concept of building the sick leave was not to give you something that was a retirement package.
Right.
That the building of the sick leave was there in case you got some catastrophic illness.
Yes.
That you would have those days, that you could use up to those days.
Okay.
It was made to reward people for longevity with the city. That, you know, if you've been here 20 years and you've accumulated some days and you got sick, then you were kind of, maybe you had earned the right to have 30 days sick, you know, if you had catastrophic surgery or something of that nature. It was that type of reward. It was never a part of and never intended to be a retirement benefit. So here you have the sick days if you need them, and you use them, or you build them up, you know, if you're not using them. And then if you retire, it is at that point in time, it's retirement that you're paid for your sick leave.
It says death or retirement.
Death
So
or
apparently it would be paid to your estate, I think.
But it would only be at 160 hours regardless of what you had at the bank.
Well, minimum of 10 years, it would be 160. If you've got 20 years, it would be 240 hours.
Okay, so if you're at 15, is it 240, or are we gonna,
No, it wouldn't adjust. It would only be, you know, the markers would be 10 and 20 based on
At
that.
15 years, it would be 160 hours.
okay,
Okay.
Up to 20 years.
okay.
160. Over 20, it would be
4 weeks
240.
back.
Okay.
All right? Okay, does that make clear? Just clear that up? All right?
One other additional comment on the personal leave thing, or floating days, whatever. One other thing that was in my other life was you had to get permission to use a personal day. and it had to be, you know, a
And that's
reasonable.
written in there, that you can't just call up and say, hey, I'm taking a personal day. That's something, that would be like a vacation day,
What, like 48 hours notice?
48-hour notice, you know. So, I mean,
Well,
you're going
you kind of need approval too.
to,
because
approval
you may
and
have-
notice.
You may have a situation where you
And
have
then-
other folks that are not working and you can't afford that.
Right.
That's well written
Reduction
in
of
the
manpower.
document. In fact, we really like that part about, you know, those are based on availability of time. You know, like, you couldn't, 5 of you take a personal day at the same time, you know, clean out the apartment, that kind of stuff.
Same
So-
thing with vacation, you need
Mhm.
approval.
And that's pretty good in there. Holidays, I wrote it down. I think, okay, there was, the grievance policy, the grievance policy looked fine to us. We did not see a problem with that. Right, Howard? That's on page 4. That's on page 4 there. My note said, no problem. Right. Yeah, the grievance, the way you work through. Substance abuse, drugs, and alcohol testing policy, that one is pretty comprehensive in here. And generally, that was something that I liked. There was one question about it that I think was worthy of our discussion. Do we want this to include, now let me tell you how this thing works. If you're in a random drug testing program, it's a computer generated. It has to be done outside of, you know, somebody. You set up how many that you want per quarter. You know, you can say 5 per quarter, and you can say 3 per quarter, and every employee's social security number or employment number, whatever, is in there, and it generates you 3. They have until the end of the day to go to the designated place and have a drug test. And that's what we would be doing. All we'd have to do is decide 3 or 5 employees per. And with that system, it happens 4 times a year, and with that system, you could randomly be selected 4 times a year. Because I'm a substitute bus driver and I'm under it, and I hit the random like 3 randoms in a row. And I was part-time, and I'm going, well, what about this? But then I went years without it. So that's how very random it could be. A person could work with the city their entire career and never be pulled up. So do we want it for everybody, or only those who are driving vehicles?
I would say everybody.
Okay.
Do they, if they're involved in some type of work-related accident?
Yes, that is spelled out in there, yeah.
All that
That's
was right.
mandatory.
Yes.
For drug tests, right?
That's for their protection, our protection.
So how many would be doing?
Quarter. We said 5, right? 5 per quarter. And the cost of that is, I think it's either like $35 or something like that. So that would have to be budgeted.
Might be more now, 'cause that's what it was most.
We'd have to get that, you'd have to get that, because if we adopt it, it would have to be counted in somewhere along the way. So if you'll make a note.
Well, we also need to make sure that our insurance, we do it by name, because we do that. So hopefully that would work itself out.
The other, Howard, did you say you had some questions on the drug, or were you good with it?
I think we were okay.
All right. There was the one thing that Rockmart had, and again, while you're looking, Howard, one thing Rockmart had was an idea where going back to school, they would pay. We being Howard kind of look at that and talk about that. And one of the things that we were saying with that was, there are a lot of benefits in here now, and we are paying for training of what they need on the job, and we did not feel that we were big enough, with a budget big enough, to be able to put forward that particular aspect of it.
I agree, we do not.
All right.
Anything work related would be.
Yeah, work-related stays in there, but
Right.
this, you couldn't,
Well, the city pays for a lot of training.
Right.
yeah. So because of that, that was the general thing, that, the agreement. All right, the other thing was, I did a cursory look, I want to go back and look a little bit closer, but the social media policy looked to me like it would be fair across the board. It didn't look like it was going to inhibit anyone's freedom of speech or anything of that nature. And that was pretty much it. The one thing that's going to generate the most is the point, and I will tell you, it's what do we do? It's what do we do about the appeals process? And at what point do we, if we turn, basically what this is directing toward is that department head would be our review, to be part of the hiring process, be a part of the firing process, or the determination process, but that anybody else would not. It would be strictly a in-house thing. The department head, the city administrator, it lays it out, the process that would have to go through determination. And then if we shift to that, and that's in the personnel handbook, so that anybody who has the handbook would know exactly what's what. Now, and then the other, I think I think that's a charter thing. I don't think that has anything to do with this, right?
You're talking about ratification?
Right.
Ratifying, hiring, and firing.
Right. It might be necessary in there.
Well, as you know, I don't agree with the appeals process and the proposed manual. I think all employees should have a right to appeal beyond the city administrator.
But we did this discussion at one time, and I think Mr. McCray was here, and I think his point of that was their appeals process past the city administrator would be the Department of Labor, because they do have an appeals process there. I think his step was to take us out of that, go from the city administrator to the Department of Labor, which is kind of what he's done in this, right? Did I misread that?
Well, he was saying if you go to council with an appeal, it becomes political.
Right.
Well, it could very well be taken as political, that's true. But it's your thought that we still should hear their case?
I think so. I don't like the fact that somebody's livelihood and career and life can be in the hands of a department head and a city administrator being able to have complete control and us having no say whatsoever. And there's nothing I hate worse than anything is having to tell somebody, an employee or somebody in the public, that my hands are tied, there's nothing I can do. And we wouldn't even be able to listen to them. And I've seen problems in the past with Temple and other cities too. And I'm not saying that we don't have a department head or a city administrator that I don't think will take that kind of control or be that retaliatory toward an employee, but it could happen. I've seen it happen. And I've seen it happen because an employee was political and the department head and the city manager didn't like him, so we got rid of him. They fired him. And they had no appeal.
But do we not have a political agenda in this thing? Did we not cover political agendas in our employee handbook with our employees? I'm just
Social
asking.
media, yes.
Okay.
Well, I will bring up that they do have an appeal, because they went to the department head and the city administrator, and they still disagreed with it. The Department of Labor, and I've been on those hearings before.
They can still go to them.
They can go to, and I mean, it's a pretty lengthy process, and you better have your ducks in a row when you go up to them. Because you've got to have the documentation of what was wrong. I mean, you better have everything you need, because if you don't, that Department of Labor will see that's corrected.
But as this is written, then the department heads would have an appeal to the council as well as
The employee,
Yeah, the
the
clerk.
employee would not have, but the department would
it's
have.
the employees under the department heads that would have no appeal process with the council.
And one thing I was thinking about is that if you have an administrator, and if you had a department head that was playing that game, then there would still be a council that would be supervising them, or, part of that. Does that make sense? It wouldn't be like, it wouldn't be like Mr. Osborne could go out here and do as he pleases, because he's still directly under us as far as that's concerned, if that makes sense. I don't want to state things in the wrong way, but if he's doing that, that would still be within our responsibility to say, no, you cannot do that, that's political.
Well, no, not with that particular employee, because this plainly states that the city administrator is the last person to file the
Yes.
bill. There's nothing that we can do.
Except for the city administrator.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't help the employee.
Right. They'd already be gone.
Yeah, the employee's gone, their career's ruined, their livelihood's gone, or whatever.
So then let me ask you this, so I see what you're saying, I've been here enough to know what you're saying. And I see what Mr. McCray's saying as far as it being political and looking good, or bad, or whatever. But okay, since we're all about this, let's involve our public and let's make sure we're transparent. What about forming a committee that they could appeal to, and not us? Let's take us out of this mix. We're elected officials. What about doing a committee?
We had suggested that.
Well, what we had talked about was appealing to the personnel committee, and then let the personnel committee, if they couldn't resolve it, then forward it on to the city council.
But two of your personnel committees is the city council, is that not correct?
That's true.
Oh,
So,
you're talking about a committee beyond the
I'm talking about
agreement.
taking it out, take it away from us. Put somebody that they can grievance to above Mr. Osborne. And let's just keep us out of it if that's what, and then if they're really still thinking, if the grievance committee agreed and they're really still thinking they were badly done, their fourth step would be the Department of Labor. I mean, how many steps do you want to let them walk?
Well, the other thing too, technically, by default, the city administrator and the mayor are members of any committee.
Right.
So you essentially have 4 members of the committee.
Right.
And if I may, also on the topic of the Department of Labor appeal, if you build that in as the final appeal step, then you get the matter moved to a quote-unquote more objective body,
Right.
where the determination, you would assume, would be based more on facts of evidence
Right.
as opposed to just opinion or attitudes. That would appear to be a plus, because you're eliminating, political matters, you would hope, and you would think, from the evaluation of the process, of the situation.
In Douglasville, some years ago, they had established a Citizens Personnel Appeals Board. It's a 3-member board. My view, after 25, well, more than 25 years of working with that group, that it depends on who you got on your Personnel Appeals Board as to how dedicated they are or how objective they are. And I have have seen it where it's functioned very effectively, and when I've seen it when it was probably more political than you probably even had with the elected officials.
The other question I have too, as far as appealing to the Department of Labor, what kind of expense to the employee would they incur?
I don't think it's any expense.
Uh-uh.
It's just a matter of
Right.
filling out the
Go
information.
out there, fill out the information, and, after a period of time, they have a hearing, and of course, one of our representatives would be there, which would be the city administrator, and a lot of times they don't show up.
Right.
But they can choose to have they can represent themselves, or if they
Yes.
wanted to go to the
Yes.
expense of a lawyer, they could get a lawyer.
Yes.
But the problem is that can take months. It can take 6
We're
months.
hung up waiting on that schedule.
But
I don't have the answer.
if he's right,
Yeah.
you know,
If he's ruled in his favor, he or she
he'll
will
be
get
reimbursed.
Right,
retro-
all of his
retro
money's
pay.
back,
Or
yes.
her.
Yes.
If the EEOC.
That's why,
Goes back
exactly
to the
why
day
you
of terminate- I mean,
always document anything on any personnel for any disciplinary action at all. You have to have your paperwork there. It's got to be done properly.
And with the new HR rules they got now,
Yeah.
it doesn't take a whole lot for us to be in a whooping lot of trouble if we're not doing that.
Yeah, some things that are pretty simple, sometimes
Yes.
they get you in more trouble.
That's right.
Well, there's a place in here that says that it's only the department head and the HR department can fire under that. So would that be, is that the city administrator? In our case, is that the
Yes.
HR? Okay, that's the biggest place where I'm going with it. And I don't have the answers to it. Unless you do something like Terry said, have a separate unbiased reading.
Is it, I don't know the answer to this, but is there I know there's arbitration for everything else. Is there?
Probably hire just.
That would be the expense of the city.
Yeah,
Hiring an
arbitration
arbitrator,
board.
yes. Maybe we take that back to Mr. McCray and see what his suggestion is. I mean, he
Oh, we
does,
know it, there's no, I mean, he's got a book written on it.
but I mean.
That's
he
not gonna
does
go
this-
back, I'm gonna tell you, that's not gonna go back to a decision from McCray. McCray is very adamant about how he feels about this. I think that, to me, one of the things is we're making lots of changes and we're improving things and we're going in a really, really great, great direction. And I know we're taking a lot of those steps, but I don't know that I'm ready to take that, to sever that. That's something that could be, get everything in place and then sever that later on. You don't have to build Rome. You don't have to build Rome. We can build a building in the Roman Empire. That's what I'm saying. I think that I really feel I feel pretty good about saying leave it alone. If you wanna, you can change it at any time you want to. So that if we
You're saying leave it just like it is?
leave it like this. I mean, I'm not talking about this document. I'm talking about the way we do it now.
Okay.
That anybody, that everything else goes, but there should still be an appeals process to the city council. I'm not,
And we don't ratify any hiring or firings.
we do it all, just like
We
we're doing
still
now.
ratify it like we do.
Just like we're doing now,
So basically, you're just saying scrub that part at the moment.
at that moment. I mean, I would hate to let that be the snagging point for getting a personnel handbook in place, and I don't feel strong enough to argue either way. I mean, I certainly don't want somebody to go through all the process and have a legitimate firing and then come up here and appeal to me and bring 9,000 people out here and say, override this. I don't want that. I don't want it at all. But at the point, there are changes coming, and we're on a wave of changes. I don't know if y'all realize it or not, but we're on a wave of changes, and we don't have to change every one of them at one time. We can make these changes now, and then we can wait a year. If Howard wants to talk to some people about a board or anything like that, I don't have a problem with, relaxing everything. Give him a chance to do more, to see if there is a way to satisfy that concern, but, no, we could fight over this one.
And in most cases, this would probably work fine, but, this is Temple we're talking about, and Temple is unique. And there's been huge problems in the past.
I think the other cities have had the same problem.
Yeah, I would see you got the same problem too. And I've seen careers ruined because of department head.
I know the police chief that was fired 6 months ago, basically it was a political deal. And it totally destroyed that family, but suddenly,
And that's
they
not.
gotta be upside down. So, with that, basically, though, everything else we're all good about, we want to take out the educational part right now. And then I'll communicate with Mr. McCray about this. Let's leave this one alone. And look, let me tell you something, that doesn't mean that it can't be changed.
Right.
It's just, let's
Well, like Eric said, it's much easier to change this than it is a charter.
Yes.
well, but that would be a charter change. And the thing about it is with home rule, you can, we can make all the other changes that we want to, and next year we decided to do that. I think it's a good idea to try to have a comprehensive plan so that you can present it to everybody and not be piecemealing a decision-making process. We're going to make changes to them all at one time. Just make it one that we do. It's kind of,
But it's good that we're discussing.
yes.
We're
And
not
we're
arguing
getting,
about it.
right, oh, absolutely. We're getting closer to, we're getting closer. Go ahead, Howard. I'm
There's
sorry.
one other thing in this too that talks about fit for duty. And I think it specifically states police officers. We'll find out from the chief if he comes up about what their policy is now, but it talks about it here,
He has discussed that, and he's right there. He's discussed that because you have a fitness deal, fitness to duty, right? Chief? Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
we'll go over that.
Yeah.
But this says, once every 5 years, we just want to see, what ours is.
You want to ask him right quick?
What is ours been, how often, chief? Okay, this new personnel policy talks about fitness for duty. It says police officers are required to have physical exams once every 5 years. But I was asking, what does the SOP say, or what is your requirements or?
Ours is only fitness is when we do the hiring process, but we try to encourage throughout the year. We don't have anything really set for them.
So the new handbook would require that to happen every 5 years.
Or less.
I mean, whatever, but it's said in there, 5
It
years.
says 5 years up here.
It would be a fitness for duty.
Is that, I mean, you got a truck driver, he even has every 2 years.
Yep.
I'd say 2 to 3 years.
I think with blood pressure and stuff,
Mine is physical once a year for bus driver.
And they have to have a physical exam. If there's a problem, then they're not released.
Still, they're gonna be able to get it after this. I said that's like it, or I mean, you saying somebody go to the doctor and get an exam?
No, this is done through, it would be an exam through,
This would be like your drug testing. It
Oh,
would be
okay,
somebody
yeah.
the city would hire, and they would.
but it's a little basic physical. You go through blood pressure, this, that, and the other. It's not, it's through the department,
It used to be down here across the street from the medical, but
Well, it's still part of
Probably
the county
do.
basketball, but it's out, the facility is out there at, that Steak and Shake.
this specifically says public safety physicals. It's calling for it with this.
I knew there was something in there. So did we, our question,
That's something you never looked at, you're talking SOPs or 500 different laws and rules, and you just don't look at something until something comes to attention.
that's through the department of, that's through the, what is that agency called? But anyway, you go down and it's rehabilitation, occupation rehabilitation is what it is. Same place, if you have a wreck, where you go and have a blood test, any of those kind of things, and you go down, with bus drivers, you go down once a year and you take the physical, and it's basically checks the eyes, checks the hearing, checks,
Yeah,
checks
just
blood
basic
pressure,
stuff,
those
yeah,
kind of
right,
things.
yeah.
And that's done through the department, the occupational department, not like going to a doctor where they're going to charge you $500 for a physical. This would be, it's just a basic fit for duty type thing.
Yeah, I can understand it, yeah. I think probably would be lowered down. I thought he was getting more into physical.
Yeah, try to, give us an idea, you know.
Okay, I'll check it and see.
And let me know so that if it's in your SOP, we'll keep it in.
You know, we got an officer one time, years ago, that did a foot chase, and afterwards had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Because he had a problem.
Well, I mean, like with your blood pressure, you know, you may have high blood pressure, if you don't check it, you don't know it. I mean, that's the silent death right there.
Walk around with blood pressure.
Under the stress and everything that an officer is sometimes, we need to keep them.
Do you require your officers to have a physical every year regardless whether you get the info back or not?
No, I don't, because you get into finances and all kind of stuff, when you tell somebody they got to go do something, they don't have money to pay co-pays and all that stuff. And
Yeah,
that's
but not our insurance.
The city,
Yeah,
The
it
city,
should sound so much.
the city should be responsible.
But I agree with doing it, but, like I said, I look at single, sometimes you got these rules based on when the department didn't have 5 to 4 officers. So you talk 15 and 20, you talk about a substantial amount of money increase for the whole city, as well as getting this established.
man, you don't do it all the same year,
Well, that's gonna be a problem there. You got one, he's waiting 2 or 3 years to find out he got high blood pressure, another one, it's something we're gonna have to do, every other year or something like that. Either just put it there for a requirement that everybody, since you got insurance, if you have insurance, you're required to bring the job physical, that you got a physical from your department, let him release his own thing.
Well, if we got this in, we'll get in here, they'll let it go.
Recommend dropping it to 3 years.
Well, the other option in play here too is with insurance, most wellness is usually
That's what I'm
covered.
saying right there.
And if it's not, you know, if there were an occasion where there was a deductible that had to be met, then the employee could file the deductible with us and the city would pick up the tab for the deductible, but insurance would pay for, you know, the other applicable stuff. But typically wellness is 100%.
Right, and they usually require those once a year.
And that's
We
the
can look at
basic, the basic thing that you would have right
Yeah, they check your heart rate, blood pressure. I don't know if they did a blood test or not.
Are you talking about the occupation? They, and like I say, I have one every year. It's blood pressure. They listen to you for whatever that is. They check your reflexes, color blindness, your vision, your hearing. There's a basic blood test that they look at that looks for any kind of ambiguities within that test. I don't know what that is.
How would they go about assuming that this happened? You say you
It
did
would.
check one officer, he had high blood pressure, his vision was going, and how did they?
Well, if you think about that, just in a hypothetical like that, if an officer has high blood pressure and doesn't know it, they need to be dealing with that, because they could have a stroke. They could get involved in the chase or whatever, and they could have a stroke right there in the vehicle. If their vision is gone, and they're out here driving in a car, and they need to have glasses, or they need to have their glasses changed, then that's a liability. Like,
So what
So
I'm
it's
saying
not that it's anything to get you, it's just to make sure that you're proactive with all these.
so what I'm saying is how do you, okay, we did this in play, it sounds good to me because a lot of people need to know, but how do you get this out? In other words, I go to you, you the doctor, you say I have high blood pressure, I got this and that. Do I come back and tell you, employ your medical? I mean, how does it get out?
If the city sends you, they're gonna send a report to the city. And let me give you a perfect example, like, with blood pressure. I never knew I had blood pressure till I had 2 mini strokes. My left side was dead. And I never took any medication at all. But today, I'm on medicine, and I can perform anything I want to do. So, you know, we may be actually saving somebody's life sometime by doing it. And you don't have to be 50 years old to do that. That could be 30 or 40.
And there is a medical person, it's not behind your back. I mean, you know, she says, you know, she tells me what my blood pressure is the minute she does it. You know,
It's still HIPAA, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying, he's thinking
You
about
got
HIPAA
HIPAA.
laws,
You tell
that's
somebody here
medical
to say-
information.
You tell somebody here at City Hall, they go, oh, he's a diabetic, he's
Oh,
got
no,
high
no,
blood
no,
pressure.
it's not made public like that. That's just as confidential
Right.
as any other medical record. You know, and the thing about it is, you know, oh, yeah.
Mr. Osborne would wind up getting those reports, and he would wind up calling and saying, Craig, I need to see Officer Jenkins. And Officer Jenkins, you need to go get he then would tell Officer Jenkins, you need to go to the doctor and check this out for me and let me know. Done.
Bingo.
No
It's all
discussion,
over.
no nothing.
But I mean, it won't be through everybody.
No,
no,
it would only
But
go.
the officer would be knowing exactly
Well,
what.
he didn't know, and so it'll be two people that know him and
Him
the
and
doctor
Mr.
relate to him at
Osborne.
home. He don't relate to y'all or nobody.
No.
That's what I was saying.
That's
It still falls under HIPAA.
that's
You
totally
can be there.
different.
Now, if the person, the medical person doing the physical, if in their judgment, it was not safe for that person to continue working until they got the matter dealt with, then, you know, they might get shut down until they went to their own doctor and got treatment, and the doctor said, yeah, you can resume duties.
I never would, you know, like I say, as a bus driver, I have to do it every year. It's not a 5-year thing, it's every
I
year.
got a friend that's a bus driver, he
And
said the same.
it's not intimidating in the least. I'm not as intimidated going there as I am the doctor, and I'm opening you, prodding you, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I don't know about that, my blood pressure seemed to be a little higher every time I went down there.
Yeah, but first, no, wait a minute.
Well,
So yes, that's all it is, Craig. You
We
go
won't talk
to the
about
city
that.
administrator and you just make sure that guidelines
Haven't
were
been
followed
needed.
and procedures were followed, if something was wrong.
I'm so concerned because you got officers versus public.
Right.
You got people who know anything about their own officer, they gonna use that totally against us
Oh, yeah.
every time.
Yeah.
His pressure was up, that's why he stopped, because he couldn't see the red light, does he get this checked out?
Oh, no.
They will do that on us, that's why I'm saying these officers are really particular about who they release their records to.
Well, you're exactly right, and that's why it's strictly confidential. And
I'm thinking about
it's
mine
safety
too.
or-
What's going on with me is none of your business, period. But at the same time, I also recognize the fact that I'm transporting children. And if something has come up from one year to the next, because we have a problem with that, I personally want to. So, you know, an officer's life is on the line every time they stop the car.
That's right.
So I think if there's something going on, they want to know and get it fixed too. All right, anything else? Thank you. So let us know in that SOP what you got, make sure it matches.
And this is the new one, or the one we?
This is
Yeah.
proposed.
Proposed.
Okay, so it should be the one we already got.
No, the only thing that Mr. Walden is asking is for you to check your SOP and see if there is anything in your SOP about physical fitness for duty on a regular basis.
Okay.
So that's all you gotta do is just check that in your SOP.
All right.
All right,
Next.
all right, good deal. All right, and then anything else? Howard, I knew you had a couple, is there anything else you had, Bob? Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
No, it's just fine. In terms of wrapping up, there's, Mr. Bragler and I had talked, and we did not see the reason to have Mr. McRae here for this meeting, so you have the type of discussion that you have. And as Mr. Bragler said, it won't be on the agenda for Monday night.
No.
And I think that y'all have to look at your timeline. Tentatively, I'm looking at maybe trying to get things wrapped up for your February 4th meeting to take a vote, but that depends on what y'all do during the month of January.
And right now, the two things, is go back and just wrap that up, just go back and keep the field the way it is, and checking on this, that's okay. So if you'll get a follow-up with the chief on that, make sure we get that. Okay, anything else? All right. Now, the next deal here is dealing with staff reports and city council review of the 2018 ranges of city capital employee merit comp. This is the one where, you know, their evaluation is annually, and that at the adoption of the budget, they would get a 1.5% cost of living raise. And then the way we did it last year, then was to have 3%, that based on their evaluation, whether they could get up to a 3% raise on the anniversary of their. Is there any discussion of that we need to do, or can that just be put on the agenda?
Here's what I need from
Okay, go for it.
council to decide. When you say that you're going to cost of living increase, that's only if that's what y'all decide.
Oh, okay.
The second is that you did change the evaluation criteria last year. I think what you changed it to work effectively, basically it stiffened the requirements a little bit. So, and I think it made more of we had, not everybody got the top, because everybody didn't deserve the top. I think what you did last year, I'm comfortable with you repeating it, but that's something for y'all to decide.
Right. So the question is there any changes to that, or can we go on ahead and put it on the agenda for a vote?
Well, where does that 1.5% cost of living increase come from? What index is that?
Budget, and just whatever you do, it does not have to be 1.5. It could be nothing.
It's not tied,
It's not
to
tied to
the price index, so it's just whatever y'all have decided, that you decided, what, 3 or 4 years ago, 1.5, that one, probably has been different at other times, but what we need to do is decide, if we could, like we did Monday night, decide what you're gonna do this year, because we got employees, a couple of employees with anniversary dates in January, so we'll go ahead and get that.
Well, the cost of living probably goes up at least that much. You're even though the price of fuel is way down, so it's up. I just want to look at
No, that's totally the discretion of the council.
So then are you asking to keep that at a 1.5% on Monday night? Is that what we're looking at doing?
Yes,
Just
you
putting
would,
it on there,
what I'm
1.5%?
asking, what I'm saying is this, that if you have no objection, we would repeat exactly like we did last year, which was 1.5%, 3%. And if anybody has any.
3% merit.
Right.
Yeah, there would be two agenda items. One would be for you to decide the criteria for evaluation. And you changed that last year. I'm fine with what you changed it to, but you do need to confirm that or decide.
Okay.
And I've got in here what you changed it to. The other is that whatever you decided on the cost of living. And then what the maximum would be over there.
Okay, all right, so if you'll have that on, yeah, the thing about it is, we should be able to use the vote, not have a long drawn out discussion, because if you have any discussion, now is the chance. So with that being done, then there should be expected that it would be 1.5%, and then up to 3, barred. Okay, anything else in the personnel committee? So we're pretty well ready to send that back from McRae, right? Okay. Okay, So look forward to that coming, do you like it printed or would you rather have it electronic?
I don't have electronic,
Yeah.
printed, just a lot.
So maybe next time send it all to us electronic.
So
You
you
want
want
electronic? Well, we can always ask for it to be printed if we need it
You
printed.
can print your own too.
Yep. Yep, okay. That would, if there's, anybody have any questions? Yeah, then,
Thank you, sir.
thank
All right.
you. By the way, one thing I do need to say is thank all of you for your input and your work on this. This has been a big document. It's taken us a while, but looks like we're getting it narrowed down.
Thank you, sir. Before we go to Public Safety Committee, y'all want to take a break, or do you want to go to the restroom as needed and just press on, or how you want to go?
Go as needed.
Go as needed, all right? All right.
Before you do that, well, out of fairness, let's take 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's,
Okay. I need to stretch as I go to the potty.
That was your Christmas present.
Well, it's not.
Yeah, well, you can use it.
still you want.
They second share that I David said they weren't as good as
Where'd they come
they came from Indian River.
Is it orange?
Christmas.
Did you get 10 nuggets for $1?
No, four.
You got 10.
Yeah, half price nuggets.
I think that's all at Burger King.
Yeah. Oh, then you're at Win. You get the 4 for $4.
I don't know what they do because I've been really fortunate because I've been to the state schools.
The thing about it is, you don't know it. I mean, that's what happened. I mean, I felt perfect. And they said, what do you have to do? You have to drive you to the emergency room. I said, I can't. Young, and I stayed in the hospital. It's kind of like a tingly, you know? That's we're gay, you know? Right, I'm gonna figure that out. What's wrong? But, and like I said, and that's basic stuff. But they, you know, 45 years old. Still great. I'd say I'm sure. A couple of weeks ago, we came out there. But then after that,
We, working on.
I don't know what they were doing. They were doing. And then
Pieces of information we sent to Rocky Dixon, Warren Hill.
Hey, Howard.
I had, you know, I had to go through a few of them. Of course, I had like a project.
Tell me what page that's on, so I can mark that, because I don't have
Each step, you know.
or is that on one of these pages?
I did everything I did.
All right, then we're after the social media policy.
Right. And I never wanted that. Yeah, I did whatever, because I couldn't imagine it having.
We would have to start that hiring day.
The best thing is that they've been arrested. If you say arrested, that's gonna charge everything, and then at the bottom of it, it say what was the disposition of convicted or whatever, explain. But the way out on some applications, they say, have you ever been convicted?
Yeah,
And people just know, then ain't nothing to be charged.
What about way back in the night, where they had done it different? Before, that would have been before.
Everybody was asking me, have you ever been convicted? And who knows, I don't know. But he never put it on there.
How much you want?
On that, I didn't see it on that.
Post you.
They never sent me like that. I got past post stuff, but when I got this, that's the first time I've seen that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to,
She's been really decent.
Do something with it.
Nope, I'm not asking anything, I'm not saying anything.
Okay, I'll try to.
Hey. Yeah, we actually, well, we'd already done all the work, just now. And I'm telling you, everybody to go through it. I'm gonna feel free.
It's all gonna.
I'm sorry. I told you how we must start.
Let's see. I got the settlement from Boston. And it says that you have to or the representative, or I forget the word, some representative. So who would that be? And how do I contact who that be? Like if you don't have to.
City college, municipality.
Yeah, I know. I just didn't know how worded that. For the net line, that's what Roy's Park said.
Probably feel easy to put your nose.
All right, this time we'll resume our meeting. Now the Public Safety Committee chaired by Councilman Howard Wall.
Thank you, Mayor. Staff report on new alcohol license applications from Pilot Travel Center, Mr. Osborne.
You got a memo I've given you, just very basically, for whatever reason, Pilot Travel Centers, a little over a year ago, did not renew their alcohol beverage license. He declined J.A. Pilot for 2018. They now want to restart to sell alcohol, and as we looked at this, said, well, you gotta go through the process as a new applicant. So they have started that. You may see the first legal ad running, but we are tentatively looking through two separate applications. I need you to mark on your calendars, Thursday, January 17th, 5:30, for a special call meeting to look at this. We may have another one or two items that will be added to that call. But primarily, just wanted to let you know that this was in the process, that what had happened, they quit selling alcohol, but last year was when we restarted. So that's why I'm just giving you that report.
All right. Next, any questions about that? Next is a staff report on City of Temple fire hydrants and arrangements for their periodic use by the private sector. That will be Mr. Everhart and Mr. Osborne.
I'm going to ask Mr. Everhart to start off by just telling you what we have from the standpoint of the city, so that the private sector, if they wanted contract with somebody to use a fire hydrant, and what we're looking at on expanding our capability there, and then I'll talk to you about the particular problem down the street here with the use of a hydrant.
Yes, Mayor and Council, right now, the City of Temple only has one fire hydrant here. But right now, I think we're looking at, we don't have that, the frequency of that fire hydrant here is not that great. But we do have an issue with, this center up here actually needing a fire hydrant meter periodically throughout the year. So it'll be up to you guys to actually buy another one at $13.50, $65. But I think that's one thing that, we definitely need to consider based on the frequency that the other fire hydrants need. But we do have a lot of growth here in the city as well, so it may be an occasion where one is running out and we don't have one to actually rent to someone else.
Matt, so that means you got a device you put on there that meters the water while it's coming through.
Right, and the way the
And we
process.
have one customer that uses that?
Well, no, it's just for actual contractors that do work throughout the city and need water. So that's how the city measures the amount of water that they use. So basically what they do, they'll put down a $1,000 deposit. They write a check for $1,000. We'll take the meter, the utility billing department will take that meter, write down the beginning reading. Once they bring it back, they'll get an ending reading and they'll bill them for the water.
Based on that.
Correct.
And if you look at city board, just telling you yesterday, we're really picking up on construction permits and things moving along. I think we are going to need, another meter. I would encourage you to, let's have Wayne as the final sign tomorrow. You can find the money
Does the meter we have now stay in City Hall?
Yes, stay at the city hall. Yes.
Under lock and key?
Yes, yes, and again, because they're the first person who comes in and talks to utility bill department.
So one more question. The water that Archer Weston is using on I-20, is that coming out of the county hydrant?
Yes.
The one south of I-20? So they don't get any from the city?
And the business that's using fire hydrant, are they paying for it or is it only you?
The Guardian down here is doing the drainage.
He's going to talk about that.
Yes.
Yes.
That's it. Anything else for Wayne at the moment? Mr. Andre?
Well, you might as well stay put, we'll get back to you in a minute. Just very briefly, what Mr. Bragdon was mentioning, and I had a couple of calls recently from different people. Faithful Guardian down here on Carrollton Street, they do training, I guess, and people have seen them out using the fire hydrant, and they were not coming through us with what they were doing. I made contact with a gentleman who's the primary owner of Faithful Guardian, and he told me that at the time that they were getting ready to open, that he had a man working with him, for him, who said that the city of Temple had agreed that they could use the water from that hydrant at no cost. But he said he had never seen the written document. Now, one purpose of my bringing this up is to whether any of you have ever heard of such a thing. And I told him that I was not aware of it, and we would see if we could find anything. Otherwise, he and I would need to get back together. And he said, well, I don't want a problem. I'm prepared to do whatever I need to do. So I don't think we'll have a problem doing that. And the fellow that he had said worked with him, that said he had made the arrangement with Temple, no longer works for him, he said. So what I will do is I'll follow up with him to see what arrangement we might have. And Dwayne and I have talked a little bit about this, that at the moment, we could look at whether or not we would do something with them, like with the meter, but it may be that we need to look at something else, including whether they need to do the meter. I'm not sure how much usage they actually do, or what we might work out, but there is a recurring situation as opposed to the others are more intermittent. But it is something that we certainly are aware of, and bottom line note is for a period of time, they've been getting water out of the fire hydrant, and they haven't been renting anything from us, so they've been paying for it.
Those students that go to school there do pay a tuition, right?
Yes, sir.
They're not training them for free.
They're for profit.
They're for
They are.
profit. Yeah, they need to pay them.
It's a business.
They need to pay
But
them.
they train first responders, paramedics, and widows.
But they're charging them.
Yes.
So, yeah. They're
So,
good.
How long have they been there?
Since
14.
very 14.
They were there when
Yeah, that's what
Because the city looked at buying that building.
that building.
And then they just,
well, we'll follow through and ask you to do that information.
One more thing.
Thank you, sir.
One more thing when it comes to the fire hydrant meter. Usually the rental of the fire hydrant meter is enough to cover the cost of the meter if they actually run off with the meter. So you may want to look at raising the rental from 1,000 to maybe 1,500. But this meter is 1,350 for a deposit, for a deposit. That's just food for thought.
It's good to.
Yeah. Okay. That's all we got. because he's
Okay.
got to come back and then
We'll be right there.
Oh,
We've got
okay.
to get the chief up here.
Okay, we're gonna get the chief, wait, after.
Oh, we can get the chief up here now.
They sit side by side.
He's up beside one.
Chief,
This is y'all's last chance to bond.
And you have 5 minutes, Chief. Do it alphabetically, get it over with.
We got 2 different reports. You should have.
3. Oh, actually 2 and 3. I put an extra in addition to Mr. Walden's request.
while y'all looking over the reports, I do want to bring up briefly, about what the chief had handed out about the high mileage on the police vehicles that we had requested. And it looks like we've got 4 of them currently that's approaching 200,000 miles, which is a lot for a police vehicle. There's been those problems, breakdown or whatever. I would like, since we've got 2 in the budget for this year, I would like for us to do something, take some action to get something going on those a lot quicker than what we did last year. Are we safe to direct the chief to get some quotes? What do you think?
Financially.
I'd say go for it. Can you get us some quotes? I don't want to wait till June.
I can try to get them worked on today. Yeah, because they're not gonna change too much. It's slightly because the year changed, because remember the ones we got now, we're waiting so late, it's 2019. 2019, yeah, so.
Okay, now did you get your second one yet?
Yes, sir, it's being worked on now.
Okay, but it's not in service yet.
No, not certain.
Who is that one going to?
It's Metropolitan the same.
No, what officer?
Oh, that one's going to Latanzio.
Okay, he's the one with the highest mileage, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's gonna have a need. Okay.
And the reason why we gave Latanzio Cox as the one first is because his was breaking down more and it cost us a heck of a lot more. And since we got it finally now running, I don't want to use it again, I won't sell it. That's why we went, and plus he's on aggressive in patrol, so that's why we gave him first, and Latanzio was willing to go there and wait. It was just a few weeks difference, that's all. Because I think Cox been in his vehicle now maybe 3 weeks.
So you can get us some quotes by Monday?
That depends on how fast the dealerships decide to do it, because I'm going to different dealerships, which I think I'm gonna get at probably the same one, because they're all different. And you got one that offers a little bit more, they're more responsive to things, and they can deliver them and all kind of stuff like that, versus $100 somewhere here. It depends, and we'll see.
Y'all got any questions about the police report? Anything for the chief? That was, all I had to say, that was my main concern was about the patrol cars. Looking at the mileage on them. So unless the chief, I don't finish that part. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Get us those quotes.
All right, that brings us to the Community Development Committee. Councilman Tom Wallace.
Okay, the first on the agenda is brief staff report concerning an update of the City of Temple zoning map to incorporate all zoning changes approved by the City Council in calendar 2018. Mr. Rob.
You'll go to your next attachments, a memo to you, information from 3 council committees, and as Councilmember Wallace had said, we do want you to go ahead and approve updating the zoning map. As Councilmember Walden has pointed out, maybe another couple of you, that map behind him over there, of course, took a long time and a lot of work to get that, what we think is a current map in the next several years. But unless we keep it up, we'll be back in the same boat. And so what we'd like to do is get you to take action, so we do a contract with Howard Ray to update that map with the rezoning changes from last year. I think that's what we, and so we'd like to see us do that, if you're comfortable with moving forward to do that.
I have a question, Mr. Oliver. Is this gonna also, I noticed in in one of our memos that we got, that they were talking about making our official zoning map, our official map of Temple, and that some of those things we were gonna have to, incorporate some, I forget what you call it, before you bring land into the city. Yeah, annexation. So would that also be done when he's doing that, or is this something totally different?
Yeah, you're talking about land to be annexed?
Well, in one of the memos, he was talking about the concerns that he had with what our map was now, where it needed to be.
Okay, we'll come to that next, just
Okay.
after all that.
We pay.
Yeah, I think it,
Okay. You'll need to,
So just put that on the agenda then for us to vote on for Mr. McCray's property,
yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ray's property.
Yeah. Go ahead with the next item. So the next item under community development is to talk about the development code and the future land use map and plan. Just again, reminding you, put on your calendars, Tuesday, February the 12th, 5:30 p.m. Right now,
February the 12th.
February 12th, Tuesday, February 12th, 5:30 p.m. at the Senior Center. That will be the joint meeting. Right now, Howard Ray and Kerry Pilgrim in particular are back and forth with information, trying to get the development code, so it's, our city attorney's office is comfortable with what Howard Ray is working on and so forth. So hopefully we get that project wrapped up on February the 12th. Now, the other, and I think this is what Councilmember Bivens was referring to, once we get that out of the way, we do need to move forward on looking at our future land use map and plan. And as I pointed out to you, I would like to see us have some preliminary discussion today or sometime very soon, because I mean, you just got through with updating your comprehensive plan. I think we did a very good job of updating the comprehensive plan, and that talked about looking at future development of the city. We worked with Carroll County so that their update on that comprehensive plan, we looked at greatly expanding the acreage south of I-20 that shows on the county's comprehensive plan, and looking at our future growth as more commercial, industrial land, hopefully land next to the city, so it would be good for us. But what we need to do is to move to now to take that more from the concept stage to concrete stage. Namely, we need a future land use plan that would include what logically might be annexed, so that we're showing how that would fit. And then we need to be sure that we've updated our, we take our future land use map to be sure that what the comprehensive plan now shows is reflected in our future land use map. So those are things we need to do. Ms. Bevins, I don't know if that's what you were talking about, but that's that is something we need to, not looking for action on Monday night, but saying that's something that we need to move on promptly. Questions, or if you don't try to respond? That's all we have.
That completes community development.
All right, thank you, sir. Brings us to Public Works Committee, chaired by Councilman Tom Wallace.
Okay. First item, report by our outgoing City Public Works Department Director, Dwayne Everhart.
First of all, let me say that this is kind of bittersweet. This is my last meeting. I enjoy working with everyone, the employees. I think collectively we were able to accomplish a lot. And there are some projects that we're able to actually do that will beneficial towards the city. There are some that are left hanging. One in particular is the comprehensive meter change out program, and I think you guys know, I think the first meeting I was here, I talked about that's one thing that we need to take advantage of. And hopefully you guys will be aggressive in 2019. Because trust me, in terms of meter reading, that's the game changer. And it's a game changer for the city.
Yeah.
God bless you, and God bless the city. Okay.
Best of luck to you.
Same to you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, the projects that we worked on, the projects we worked on, it's been a pleasure working with you. It's been good, you know, we hope to continue that. So come back and visit.
Will do.
I have a question before you go. Where are we on getting our trucks, labeled City of Temple?
Well, now that we're in the new budget year, I mean, I just got back
Hey,
Yesterday.
recently, I need to know.
yesterday, so I guess I can work on that tomorrow with a vendor.
Okay. The one that the police department does, they can do as far as it's already out already.
Yes, I'll contact them.
Right, thank you.
Go ahead.
Can you update us on the roof on the building?
Yes. As you guys know, the roof leaks once they actually repair it. Had them come back out twice. It's not leaking now, but water still puddles at the top. So they're gonna come out next week because it shouldn't be puddling based on the quote. You know, everything should be slanted going towards the back. So they're gonna come out next week and replace the whole roof.
Good deal.
That's good, good response.
It's a big
service.
challenge.
Felt like they would do what's right.
Any other questions?
When's your last, today your last day?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay, so you'll leave your truck where?
I leave it here because I'm here for the work.
Okay, put the locator.
Located on this. I have, I'll be bringing him 3 boxes of documents that I have had from 2015 since I've been.
Okay, good.
Ask him how he was gonna get home.
Yeah, call Uber.
Right.
Leah,
Probably $50 to get home.
Yeah, we appreciate your help. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Wayne.
Report on the City of Temple and Carroll County Water Authority continuing contracts. Ms. Riley.
This is the last part of that memo I just mentioned, and basically, we have been maintaining contact with them from an operational standpoint and fiscal standpoint, and we're kind of at a standstill right now on refinancing the bond debt, and all of us are waiting for completion of the 2017 audit that we'll be talking about in just a minute. Because the Water Authority wants those numbers to see what we've got in the audit before they're ready to go forward. Bill needs those to get the best deal, probably for us and everything. So hopefully we'll be through those problems in the relatively near future. We've also had, as had been mentioned on the water meters, I know you want to get this project completed, recognize we're behind on getting it done. A couple of things that have happened that taken into account. The mayor, we've talked a couple of times, and I may have mentioned it to you on a possible new financial arrangement that we could, I'll try to get some information to you the next few days on that. And the other is that that's a major decision with how we proceed. And I really hate for us to make a final decision on that without the new public works director being involved in the final say-so. But there's other work that we can be doing to get ready for it. We are staying in touch with the Water Authority and we'll continue to do so.
Please.
Go ahead.
Where are we, Mr. Osborne, on the meter anywhere closer yet, or what are we gonna do?
Well, that's what I'm saying, I don't wanna, I'm torn between how far I go before we get to be Public Works Director on board. But insofar as, I wish we had gotten some stuff done a few weeks ago that we didn't get done because just everything else going on. But then there is another, and I'd fill in more on this after the meeting of the next couple of days on the additional financing option we need to look at. But the bottom line is that we're behind where we need to be and should be, and I take responsibility for that.
Any other questions? Okay, that concludes the Public Works Committee.
Thank you, sir. Budget and Finance Committee, Councilperson Karen Bivens.
All right, so the first thing on there is a staff report on the status of our 2017 audit. I think Mr. Osborne and Ken are going to do that.
Let me start just by, if you haven't read the memo that I wrote and put in your books, the bottom line is that, of course, we recognized last spring that we needed an extension. We requested that extension of the Georgia Department of Audits and Accounts. They approved that. I have included a letter from Jackson and Newgart in that department granting that extension. That was through December 31st. I wrote this on the 31st and just said we're not going to meet that new deadline. Ken did make a phone call just to notify them. Also emailed the state because Ms. Hubert in her letter said that we were not going to be able to make the deadline, but please give them a call, send them an email. We did both. And she almost immediately, late last Friday afternoon, sent me back the email saying that they could not grant an extension, and which we knew was going to be the case. Ken will talk to you in just a minute about what we're working on to try to move things forward. And I did talk a little bit in my memo on the reasons that we're behind, and part of it goes back to Cassell, but you don't want to keep making Cassell your whipping horse. We've had time enough to recover from that, and we have had some issues with the CPA firm, but I'm going to turn it over to Ken for his report. You will find the rest of my memo. I did talk to you about what Robin Denson had identified as what she calls our open items. We feel like that hopefully we get this thing wrapped up in the relatively near future. But that's where we are at the moment. And I did include several emails in here, but let me turn it over to Ken to give you a report from his perspective.
On the 31st, I made contact with the lead auditor. I requested for status of the audit, and she responded that they are working on it. She's working on it with a group of colleagues and will get back to me. Then later that day, she requested for additional documents, which I thought she should have had all the while, because on the week of 10th of December, Samantha emailed her that Teresa from Cassell would like to talk to her about what she wanted concerning the utility bills, but she never showed up. So I'm So till now, she doesn't have that information that will enable her to complete the audit. Then this morning, I emailed her again and requested for an update. And I also reminded her that the DOA declined our request for extension. If I may read her response, she said, we are currently reviewing the details you sent and will be in touch shortly regarding our ability to assist you with the due to and due from. And the information concerning due to and due from, Ms. Gaia worked on this diligently and sent out this information, I think it was 15th of December. But once she got that information, we never heard from her. Then, continuing, she said, in the meantime, we are still waiting to be connected with Cassell. She was supposed to have been here in the week of December 10th to discuss with Cassell because they had the information she needed. The lady Teresa said she would want her here so that she can remote into our computers and show her the journal she was requesting to see. She never showed up. But now she's saying that we are still waiting to be connected with Cassell so that we can review the utility bill discrepancy. The only way she can do that is to come down here. So I responded and found out that, we have asked you to come down here before and look at this. You never showed up. And the only way this can be done is your presence here in the City Hall so that we can connect you with Teresa Cassell to do that. And from the look of things, she hasn't done that. I'm not sure how she's going to be able to complete the audit without the issues with the utility bill. And this is what Samantha emailed her December 10th, letting her know that for you to be able to get that information, you have to come here and connect it with Teresa. She did that. That's really but it's my intention to keep her, to liaise with her maybe daily, or just get what she's supposed to.
Is generally contact, can we contact somebody with the company and get them on the ball? Or she called on
Well,
The guy was doing,
Billy Lynch is her boss, and of course, I felt over the last few weeks that we were not that far from wrapping up. It was just a matter of wrapping up, and then realized what she was saying to us the 1st of December, and that we had some problems on that. One thing that Ken mentioned, I was looking at some other things that in addition to the problems that issues he's talked about, we know that they set up a schedule for us back in the spring, and we did have to, she had to do some other things with us, and that was more related to Cassell and everything. But then she moved on to other assignments. Frankly, she just has not picked back up on this the way it felt like she should have. And so one reason we're behind is that they have spent a limited amount of time, in my opinion, on what they need to do for us. And I'll be glad to call Billy Bench if we need to.
we need to.
To see what we can do to wrap this thing up.
We've got a lot riding on this hour.
Yeah,
We can't wait another month.
Now, the other part, that once we get through with what she's working on with Ken and Cynthia, it has to go through that internal review process. And I can't tell you if that'll be a quick, easy process, or whether some of the people higher up in the firm will have questions. And I think when all of this is over, we need to come back and address whether or not we want to cancel the agreement that y'all had said we have with them for doing the 2018 on it. I think you may want to introduce some other people.
It's about time to start it or bid it out, or?
We've already agreed to
said
use
to
them
let
in
them do it.
2018, we'd have to rescind that. But based on performance and deal, those are my comments at this time.
I say, like, fire up somebody that's, you know,
I'm not sure it would be appropriate to bid it out right away because they're still trying to work on the 17 audit. If we do that, we have all kinds of tricks to hold on to that document. Put us in the
And just have it as a backstop, rock. Right now, don't rock the boat, we're telling them to get our audit.
let's just get a set bid
Get
on it.
that completed.
Yeah.
And deal with that.
Any more questions? Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is review of the city ordinance provision for an annual cost increase for the city water rates.
You will go to your next payout, you will see a memo we dated the 31st of December, in which I simply have reminded you that the ordinance that you adopted, I said back in the spring, actually turned out to be a little later, does call for an automatic 1.5% increase each year unless you vote not to do that. What I now am going to pass out to you is that I put together earlier today, and I'll go over that quickly with you. Basically, what I've given you here is previously I had given you the last part of this ordinance, which turned out to have been adopted on September 4th. And now I've given you the first part also so that you got the full ordinance. But basically it does, as I say, it provides for this inflationary increase. And what I have done is I have, if you go over past my January 3rd memo, you will see a draft resolution. And that draft resolution starts off just pointing out that you adopted this ordinance on September 4th. And in section 5 of the ordinance says that you're to have certain fees. And section 6 talks about the automatic increase of 1.5% unless you vote not to go forward. And then I simply say, now therefore be it resolved by the Temple Mayor and City Council that it is, and I've given you three options. First option, the first option is that you're not going to take any action, which means that the automatic 1.5% increase will occur effective with the February billing cycle. Second option is that you're going to take a specific action saying that you do not want to apply that 1.5% inflationary rate, but you want to keep the rate where it is at the moment. And the third option is because of financial situation that you want to increase the rate by more than 1.5%, and whatever that increase amount would be. So basically, those are your three options, obviously. And the only thing I did point out in my memo is we know that our wholesale costs from the water authorities went up $20,000, so $19,000 going to the budget. And of course, you have some other inflationary costs that we have in this operation as in other operations. But now, if you do not do anything, then the increase would take effect. So if y'all decide not to take any action, that increase takes effect. What I didn't want to do, though, is not give you the opportunity to say, no, we don't want to put the increase into effect, or yes, we're going to uphold the ordinance, go ahead and do the 1.5, or if you say, you know, we really ought to go ahead and do a 2% increase or whatever you might decide. So, and we do need, if you don't make that decision on Monday night, we'll need it in the very near future, because your ordinance that you adopted last year says this takes effect with the February budget cycle.
Got a couple of questions. First of all, is that automatically programmed in the cell software to just automatically increase it 1.5%?
I do not know.
Is that would be strictly on water only? I'm sewer. That would be water increase. Per thousand.
If I'm looking at what it says in your ordinance, based on, let's see, the rate of charges for all scheduled water and sewer fees shall effective in the February billing cycle of 2019 thereafter be increased by 1.5% of the volumetric rate increase annually accomplished, so that the 1.5% would be water fees, sewer fees, and any other associated costs that you have.
I think it would be good to have an audit so we can see what our increase last year did to the debt ratio. We have no idea what the debt ratio is.
But you're talking about the 2018 audit, not the 2017 audit. You could be talking about 6 months down the road. Correct?
No, I'm talking about the 17 audit will tell what our debt ratio is.
Well, it will tell you what it was in 17.
Right.
17, yeah, for at the end
So, I
of.
mean, so
We
you,
didn't
We
do
didn't do
it
any
till 18.
increases, we didn't do that till 18.
Oh, that's right, that's right. That's right, so they won't tell us, okay.
No. And I mean, I remember we discussed this at length, because the point of it was everything's getting older, we're gonna have to start replacing it. And because for the next 5 years, we had an increase, and if we just did little each time, maybe we wouldn't have to have such a big increase at one time.
That was to prevent a major increase.
Exactly.
So this, that doesn't have to be advertised or anything, because we've already made the decision for an automatic increase, right?
it's in your ordinance. And like I say, if y'all decide Monday night not to take any action, the increase is going to be put into effect. If you want to simply pass a resolution saying that the ordinance says that it goes into effect unless we take action to stop it, then we'll let it just go into effect as the ordinance calls for. Or if you want to not do it, or you want to do more. So just giving you your options. You want to do more.
Well, I definitely don't think we want to do more until we get the 2018 audit. I mean, 2017 is not telling us. The 2018 audit will give us something, so it could stop us from doing it in the 2020 year. But definitely, I think we definitely need on the agenda to decide what we're going to do so we can get started. Because like you said, it's not February.
We already know that the water department's increased to $20,000.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I got that letter. That's the last sheet under your attachment. That was action taken last summer by.
Yeah, but that increase will be over and above this 1.5%. But, see, if we get our bond refinanced and get that payment lowered, then, maybe increase the inflation.
But we're still going to have to pay for the infrastructure. So
But yeah, I'm saying, yeah, this 1.5% still needs to be on the agenda. So all we can do is just vote to, just make it right, so no action.
That's what I'm saying. I'll give you whatever options you want, but there's no point in be preparing an option that you're not interested in. And I think the one that I hear that you're not interested in is you're not gonna go above the 1.5% at this time.
So there's nothing that needs to be done.
But if you don't do anything, it goes in, so.
So it shouldn't even be on this agenda.
From a staff standpoint, I need to put it somewhere before you, and I can do it at this meeting and have a record of it, because it still has to be your decision to make.
This is good enough that we knew it, and we told you, we didn't tell you to put on the.
What's our water rate per thousand, $5.50?
550.
I was gonna say 1.5% is not all that much, and we're only talking water, we're not talking sewer increase.
No,
No,
it's
it's all
water.
It's
Water and
both.
sewer.
It's both.
Oh,
Oh, it's both?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what it was. Water.
Yeah, he read it.
Which ordinance is?
yeah, we did them both.
Well, it's 8.25% or 0.08% on water increase per thousand. So 8 cents per thousand.
So basically, it's not a big increase.
It's not small.
Anything, bro? Okay, so my next one is January 7th City Council agenda item to provide authorization to spend an additional $27,969.98 in the 2015 squad fund to complete local requirements for our current cooperative local maintenance and improvement grant, or the LMAG program with the Georgia Department of Transportation. Mr. Osborne?
Well, I've given you a copy of the memo, the letter that the mayor said is required to GDOT. That's what we have to do on the LMIG, and we have to let them know where we stand financially. And we did point out in this that the cost of the project we had exceeded what we had in reserve, how big and what we got. And so we're $30,000, basically $28,000 in the red at the moment. We just need to take action so we get that handled. We'd like to do that through the approving the expenditure from the 2015 SWASH, so we can get up to speed with.
Yes, sir, I just put that on the agenda, we'll just vote to go from there.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Any more questions? Report on the proposed resolution to set publish the qualifying fee for the office of the city council member for the city of Temple general election to be held November 5th, 2019. Ms. Kristen?
So we have an election coming up in November, and there'll be a resolution presented to y'all, I think, on Monday night. In previous years, the qualifying fee has been $72. That's a percentage of what y'all's annual payment is that you receive each year, and y'all's annual payment has not increased or decreased. So I assume it would make sense to keep it at $72, but that's something y'all will have to determine. And I believe Mr. Osborne put a copy of the resolution in the book for you.
Any questions? Review the city of Temple's current list of approved vendors and contractors and discussion of possible addition and/or deletions to that list. Mr. Osborne?
We, Cindy Moore and Kristen and I talked a little this morning, and we are continuing to work on this. This is what we call our vendor list, but it needs to be updated, and the reason I could put this on the agenda, that it's been, since I've been here, we've not had the elected officials take a look at the vendor list. And like I say, don't consider this the official list, because we need to, we've got some other things to add to it, and there may be some to take off. But what I want to do is just, we'll get that to you the next few days. So during the month of January, at your leisure, when you have insomnia or when you got some other time just to see, we just want to be sure if vendors we've got on that list we need to take off for whatever reason, and we take them off. And those that we need to add, we add. We just need to update our list. And so that's the purpose of bringing this to you. Yes, sir.
The only vendors list that I've seen in the past was not this entailed. I've never seen this before. And when I brought up updating estimating vendors list as far as applications, insurance, license, and all that. The list that I had seen, I think, was like in an ordinance, and there were like 12 names.
I know what you're talking about, and I've seen that too, but that's certainly not all the vendors that we would have. Now, Kristen, Kristen, you know where the book is, Kristen? That this morning there was a book that she had, Cindy had this morning, we was talking about the insurance. Because in this book, there's a stack about an inch tall for the different vendors with insurance things. A lot of that's out of date. You know, last year we tried to update that, and we got responses from only a few vendors, probably from those that are active with us, and rather just all.
Go ahead. I just want you to know that when I brought it up, it was not my intent to have staff to update all of this, or call them, or get applications on all of them, or insurance documents or anything.
Well, we're not fixing to do that.
But the ones that are doing, but the ones that are actually doing, like plumbers and electricians and all those kind of vendors that are here, and we are requiring them to have business license and insurance and all that, and right? That, I mean, that's, to me, I'm mixed up. I mean, Howard kind of uncleared the order, I guess, here, is, to me, there's one list that's doing actually business with us.
On a regular basis.
On a regular basis. And, you know, we're buying stuff from Home Depot. They're not coming in here and providing a service. We're just a consumer of Home Depot. But there are others that come here providing a service for us. Now, we are making sure that we have all of that, the insurance, and because if somebody comes in and cuts down a tree and it falls on somebody's car or house, we're making sure that they have insurance, right? Before they cut
Well,
the
if
tree.
they were our vendors.
But so,
that's not the same as getting a business license.
well, the thing about it is, don't answer the question that way. Anybody who comes in and provides a service for us, we have them
Or the
on
city
the
government.
list. The city government. I'm talking about city government. They're on the list, and before they can do a service for us, they have to be business license, insurance, all that kind of stuff, right?
Should be the case, yes.
And we have, that's a separate list. These are just people we buy from, right?
This was from Cindy this morning, and this is just what she calls the vendor list. And what we're trying, I wanted to give y'all a copy because that's what, today, but just to say we're working on this. We do feel like we didn't get a position so y'all can review what's our true vendor list. Because it hadn't been done in a long time.
Can we sort out from this vendor list those that are doing services for us?
We do have, Cindy has a folder that separated out contractors and vendors. Vendors are gonna be people we're buying supplies from, the contractors are people doing the work from.
Yes.
The contractors are the ones that we need to make sure we have the insurance up to
Yes.
date and all of
Okay.
that. So at first, it was a little more overwhelming than we thought, but we do have some contractor lists separated out. So we're working to make sure that's updated, and I guess the most important thing is going forward, as we've been doing, just to keep making sure anytime we do an RFP or contract with somebody, always make sure we have their updated insurance.
I just want to make sure we're not putting the staff to a bunch of work on this subject.
Any further questions or comments? Then the last thing is a report concerning the city council's consideration of the final amendment to the 2018 city general fund and water and sewer fund budget.
If you will turn to the last page in your book, and our finance director is coming up, and he'll give you a report.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
We are currently working on the amendment. Hopefully, we should complete it later today. And also, if we are not able to, most likely tomorrow we should be able to complete it. And I intend on sending an emailing the head of departments about outstanding invoices. That will be sent out today as well, because we need to complete budget amendment. And I'll meet with them sometime next week as well to review expenditure reports and recommend final budget amendment. I'll discuss that with Mr. Osborne and before it will be presented to the finance committee sometime next week. But we're currently working on it, and hopefully we should be done with it for presentation.
Any questions, comments?
When will we vote on the amendments? Let me for
February 4th.
February 4th.
Okay, that concludes my opinion.
Don't forget to leave your word books with us overnight if you do. And we'll have it ready for you by 2 tomorrow.
Thank you, Ms. Bivens. Thank you, Ken. All right, that brings us to executive session, which is not needed. Closing comments. Ms. Bivens?
None, thank you.
Mr. Walden? Mr. Wallace? Mr. Brackman? All right. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
Or adjourn.